Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today our movie in the... Oh no. Don't look. Who was that guy? Because he definitely wasn't me, obviously. I have glasses. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today our movie in the middle is Superman. Superman is James Gunn's reboot of the DC universe, following the hero as he struggles to find his identity both as a human and an alien, and his place in the world he tries to protect. It stars David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, Eddie Gathegi, Isabela Merced, Skyler, Gisondo, and Nathan Fillion. So Superman flew into theaters this weekend, and as you know, it was my number 3 most anticipated movie of the year, and that is really weird, considering I've never been a huge Superman fan. I have never really gotten into the comics, into most of the movies. I don't own almost anything that relates to Superman, obviously. And so when this trailer came out, I was actually very surprised to find that I was really excited for this movie. But also, not only did it help that James Gunn is doing this and I'm in for whatever he's going to do, I have grown a little bit more of an appreciation for, and I understand more, the appeal of Superman, especially after talking to one of my friends. And we talked about a lot of these comics that he was in, not my friend Superman, and the kind of character Superman is, and how, yes, everybody says that he has no flaws except for kryptonite, obviously. So where's the conflict? And he could do everything, and he's boring. But I think it's just as I've gotten older, and there's a lot more nuance in political situations and in character growth, and the philosophy of Superman specifically. It's just gotten to be a lot more interesting to me, and I really want to dive deeper into those comics, especially. Like, I've never been one to be like, I now need to read the comics, but I'm not kidding when I say that I kind of want to. I kind of want to get into Superman as a character more. And of course, the other thing about this movie coming out is that this is the reboot of the DCEU, James Gunn's version, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't completely off board with what the other DCEU was trying to do. Like, I didn't completely hate it. I liked what they were going for. I did like it's like a darker Marvel, because that's basically sort of what it is. It's just the execution, the guy at the helm of it was not really going for dark so much as edgy and kind of boring and a little sexist. So I was stoked finding out that James Gunn was going to be doing basically this entire reboot of the DCEU, because I was like, you know what, maybe I'll actually like it this time. So starting off with the highs, James Gunn. This feels so much like a James Gunn movie, and it's crazy that he is able to make movies where you go, that's a James Gunn movie, but they also don't all feel exactly the same. Yes, they have a lot of similar tones and a lot of the same types of aspects to them when it comes to music and sequences and how they go, and the hilariousness of a lot of these movies, which I'll get to in a second. They still feel unique, and what I like about this specifically, and the Suicide Squad when he did that, maybe it's just me, but it does feel different from Marvel. It's not like he's just doing Guardians of the Galaxy for DC. He's doing something a little bit different. He's just really good at, and really has an understanding of how to take a comic book and feel like he just threw it inside the screen. All the hallmarks are there. The music, the incredible action, the visuals, the humor, all of it. The visuals in this are crazy. The flying scenes, I kind of said this for like How to Train Your Dragon, but especially in this one, the flying scenes really feel like you are flying with this character. And he definitely made it a purpose to have this movie look as dynamic and wide angle and big as possible, with a lot of like camera motion sweeping throughout a space, a lot of wide angle lenses, everything like that. It just made it look insanely epic. And again, the action, the music, which are usually in these movies that James Gunn does, put together very well. There's a lot of great sequences once again in how he uses music both for character and both for action. There's so many incredible sequences, visually, the choreography, all of it. And then, of course, the humor, the story, the characters, all of that, which I'm going to go to in just a second, are just as good. And that is what a lot of the DCEU stuff lacked originally, because they would have a lot of great visuals sometimes, but the characters, the story was lacking a lot. But this one has a great script. It's got a lot of great moments with characters. It feels like relationships are built and they're actually fleshed out more There are some weird exposition-y lines, but for the most part, the actual screenplay is good. And there's a lot of incredibly hilarious moments that are genuinely actually funny, including a lot of really good cameos. So the big question on everybody's mind, was David Corenswet a good pick for Superman? In my humble opinion, hell yeah. I love this guy as Superman, and I want to see more of him. I am really sorry, but not really sorry, to the Snyder fans who didn't get to have their constipated-looking Super Bro. I'm sorry about that. Generally, I am usually down for exploring a certain character in a number of different ways and trying new things. That's totally fine. But I'm sorry, this one's just better. I was worried that he was going to seem sort of incompetent or too young and inexperienced, and there is some of that in here, but that is more so in the way of he's growing, and that's the first part of his character arc in this movie, is he does lose a little bit, and he has to try to deal with that, especially as he's finding out all of this stuff about his own identity and trying to find his place in the world. Everything about the character was really, really well done. And there's just a lot of really great moments, especially one in the beginning where he's talking with Lois. There's like one or two lines that really just show you who Superman is. I was just really digging the whole like first half of this movie, really diving into situations that he's put into where we have to find out how he's going to react and what he's going to learn about himself and his role in saving people, basically, and what he can and cannot do. The other thing is, and this was a huge point of contention, the suit. I like it. I always did like it. I don't know what people didn't really like about it. They said it looked corny and that it looked like it was from Wish. And I don't know, it looks like a Superman suit. It doesn't look stupid and too dark and like it literally is from another planet. Like it looks like the comic book. This is a very comic accurate movie. And I thought it was fine. I would have been curious to find out how he chose said outfit. There's not exactly an origin story in this movie, and I almost wanted one. It goes in like a little bit too quick for me. I almost would have preferred a little bit more origin, but that's okay. Maybe we'll explore that a little bit more in later movies. Lois Lane is awesome in this movie. She finally feels like a real person and not just a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, and that's her entire character, or just Superman's girlfriend, and that's her entire character. She is both, but she's also more, and I love that they feel like equals, and they talk to each other. They feel like they have a deep-built relationship. I loved that. And she really takes a lot of action in this one, too, and kind of pushes a lot of people forward into motivating them to, like, do things. And just generally, they both had a lot more chemistry with each other than Henry Cavill and Amy Adams ever did. I also very much like that we got a lot more of the people in the Daily Planet and that they play a much bigger role. We got to see a lot more of in the newsroom. That was really fun. There's a lot of fun kind of espionage, I guess, stuff going on there. I don't know if that's completely the right word, but a lot of digging and research, and it was very, very fun. All the other Superman stuff, the use of kryptonite, the robots, Fortress of Solitude, and of course, Krypto. This dog steals the show in so many scenes. I love this dog, and what I really like about him is he's not completely competent. And I won't expand on that because I just want you to see it. He acts more like a dog. I do have a couple of middles. The first is Lex Luthor. I think that Nicholas Hoult, I don't know how this is going to come off, but I think he plays a villain really well, especially a villain who sort of kind of acts like an incel sometimes. I don't know what this says about him, but he's really good at playing that. He's a good actor. And I like a lot of what he does with Lex Luthor here. Like, I really think that he took him in a different way than, like, say, Michael Rosenbaum did in Smallville. He's a little bit more calculating and, you know, because it was a whole show, he had to kind of be a sort of good and sort of bad person struggling, and I like that a lot. I do wish there was a little bit of that, but if you're not going to do that, you may as well go all into this guy's evil, and he plays an evil as shit guy. I mean, there is not one bit of him in this where he is not playing somebody who you wouldn't want to punch in the face. Everything he does is like completely egotistical, and I like this angle. I don't know Lex Luthor that much because I don't know Superman that much, but from what I know, I think he did a good job. Why it's a middle is just because I think some of his motivations came a little bit too late. You can guess at it for sure, but it doesn't really come till like the third, third of the movie, and up until that point, it just makes it sort of seem like he's just being evil just to be evil. So I kind of wish we gotten some more, like, a little bit of a deeper emotional thing with him earlier on. But it's whatever. He still played a pretty good job. My other middle is all of the other heroes. I definitely thought that this was going to be a way too crowded movie, and it's not. They paced it out and gave most of the characters a good amount of space to exist where it doesn't feel like we're cramming everybody in. That being said, it does sometimes feel like they're thrown into some scenes just to be there. I don't know, I just felt like these three heroes, it's Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific. They are great in the movie, especially Mr. Terrific. He has some badass scenes, and I did not think he was going to be in this movie as much as he was. But it also just feels like a weird, I don't know, amalgamation of them. Like, why did you choose these three? And they just look odd together, you know, especially if we're building up, like, we're going to get to the Justice League at some point. Maybe it's, all right, it's the first movie, we're building it up, and we'll get to know these characters more. But it just felt sort of, well, even though I don't agree with the whole thing about this Superman and this Superman costume feels like Superman from Wish, I sort of slightly agreed with some of these characters a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. I also wasn't a huge fan of one aspect that has to do with Superman's parents. I don't know if it was how they executed it or what it actually is. There's like this thing that's revealed about them. I didn't believe it for a second. Again, maybe it's just me not knowing a lot about Superman lore, but I really didn't believe it for a second what something ends up being. It just did not, it felt forced. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I wasn't a huge fan of that. And the last middle I want to bring up isn't really something that is like a good and bad thing, but it's something I wanted to mention is a lot of people are saying that this movie is, I mean, as we say about everything anymore, is too woke, but specifically because they intentionally said that this movie is going to have a lot of undertones of immigration and people coming here and being treated differently. And I'm like, okay, like, yes, that's in the movie, but I didn't personally feel like it was on the nose or really heavy-handed because quite literally, Superman is an alien who comes to Earth and is trying to find his place in the world, and he's treated differently because of it. So it's you can't do that story without feeling like you're having a metaphor to what's going on right now. It just kind of comes with the territory. So I didn't really feel like it was heavy-handed because, to be honest, I didn't even really think about that for most of the movie until, like, one speech at the end that he gives. And even then, I was like, that's kind of part of his character arc. And sure, go off. I like it. I don't know. So I didn't think it was really that heavy-handed and really that noticeable. So I do have one low. And unfortunately, it is a really big one because it takes up a lot of the movie. And it's not going to be a low for probably many people. And I'm just going to say now that it's probably something that upon a further couple of watches, I might change my mind on this. I've only seen this once. This is a first reaction. But my reaction was that I liked the first half way more than the second half. The first half to me is what I went into this movie for, was discussions about Superman's character and his personality and who he is, the philosophy of him, building his relationships with people, his role and his interactions in the political sphere and in society and everything, and how they view him, how media portrays him, all of this stuff. I wanted a lot of that, and that was great, and they did that, and it was beautifully done. Then something happens about halfway through, and it becomes a completely different movie for about 45 minutes, and then they have to jumble those two together at the end. I just kind of didn't care as much about the second part. It becomes more of like a visual otherworld black hole thing, and I'm like, that it was cool. Visually, it's amazing. But I wanted some of the other stuff. Now, I might be in the minority on that because, again, the other stuff is very cool. And you want some more big action and epic locations and production design and all that, for sure. I don't know, it just felt like it wasn't as deep. And I just really was digging all the other stuff in the first half of the movie. And then when it gets to the end, the conflict that they had set up for most of the movie up until maybe about an hour and 15 minutes in, it kind of is played off, I don't want to say as a joke, but it's at least played off very quickly and like it wasn't really that much of an issue. And that sucks because that's the part that I thought we were going to get with him in there really being a part of it. And I don't know, I didn't want him where he was at the end. I wanted him somewhere else, if that makes sense. And it just felt like the movie couldn't decide which one they wanted to do, so they did both. And while I do like the character stuff for Superman at the end, it does border on a cliche that a lot of movies have done that I'm not a huge fan of in terms of the action and who he fights. So overall, this is a great start to the new DCEU. It's fun, visually stunning, dives into Superman's internal struggles, and feels like a modern version of that classic, slightly corny, but above all hopeful Superman media that we know and love. It was heartfelt, it made people cheer, people are just going bananas for this movie. It's like something's been filled, like this hole's been filled inside them that we needed for so long. I am interested in where this DCEU is going to go. I still hope that they do include a like darker element to a lot of the movies. I hope they're not all just a James Gunn lighthearted movie, even though he still does those very well. That is what makes DC unique. Even though a lot of the darkness is more for solo stories, not like the Justice League stuff, but still, you know what I mean. But this was a great start, and with a little bit of caution, I am excited to see where this all goes. I'm going to give Superman a 3 out of 4. Well, guys, let me know what you thought of Superman. Did it meet your expectations? Is it better than the DCEU Henry Cavill stuff? I'm sorry if you're a Snyder fan. I don't mean to poke fun, but I'm going to. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and movies right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.